Hey everybody, it's November 30th, 2007. I'm Sonic Sons. I'm doing a video about a thing I wrote about recently called FairTax, which is an idea and bill for tax reform in the United States, and the basic ideas of it, I guess, could be applied to all sorts of places. So I first heard of this at the YouTube, CNN, Republican debate thing we just had, which I didn't watch most of that debate, because the candidates were talking like candidates, and I was, oh, I've heard this, and you can see my video on how to earn my vote for that one. But somebody mentioned FairTax as a tax reform policy. So I thought, what is this? Go up to the ever-useful Wikipedia, looked it up, and so here's the idea. As it is in the United States, and this is all just for federal taxes, by the way, state and local taxes will probably remain the same, I don't know. But on the federal level, there's all sorts of various taxes. There's like an income tax, there's capital gains tax, there's the estate or death tax, there's the gift tax, which is mainly there so you can't give away all your stuff just before you die to avoid the estate tax. And there's lots and lots of complications with all of those. Most of the stuff comes from income, though. It's the biggest provider of tax revenue. And some people don't like the tax system. In fact, a whole lot of people don't like the tax system. It's kind of a necessary evil. But these fair tax people are trying to think that, are trying to see if they can make it better. And their basic idea is to get rid of all the taxes we currently have and replace them all, on the federal level, with one sales tax. And it'd be a pretty high sales tax, but that's the only tax you'll ever pay. Okay. As for how high, there's a problem with definition, and it all depends on whether you count cost of an item as being the cost of the item plus the tax, or whether you count the cost as being the original item and the tax is added on. Most state taxes use the latter calculation, and fair tax uses the former. So what that means is, by the fair tax system, you're paying 23% of the total price at the register when you buy something, and that total price includes the tax itself. Which means, if you spent $100 buying a bunch of stuff, whatever, 23 of those dollars, 23%, it goes to the federal government, and $77 were spent on getting the items. So if you go at the normal way of calculating how we add a tax on, that's really the $77 item with a 30% tax added on. So depending on how you count, this is either 23% tax or 30% tax. Either way, that seems rather high, but again, that's the only tax you're paying. It ends up being revenue neutral, or so they believe. It's rather complicated. As I said in my stock market video, economics is really complicated stuff. For everything in here, there's like several studies that show this would be a good idea, and a couple studies show it's a bad idea. I think the general trend seems to be this would be a good idea, but there's just not the inertia, the willpower to get it done. Though possibly the way we ought to do it is slightly different from the way they recommended. Quite possibly. Okay, but there are some advantages to having just a sales tax and nothing else. First off, there's only one tax. It's very easy that way, which cuts down bureaucracy in many ways. For one thing, the income tax forces all of us to fill out forms every year, very complicated forms, and employs some $10 billion worth of bureaucrats at the IRS to sort through all these forms and, find if anyone's cheating, audit, and all these things. With just this sales tax, the individual doesn't fill out any forms. Rather, it's the businesses that fill out tax forms that say we earned this much money, or actually, you don't even have to say how much you earn. You just say, like, there was this much amount of purchasing going into our business, so therefore you get, the 23 or 30%, there's the same complication. But yeah, the certain amount of dollars come in to someone who from selling things, and 23% of that goes to the government, right? Now, that, of course, lends the retailers and stuff to do lots of paperwork, but they're big businesses, they can handle it. And as it is, they're already handling it because they have to pay lots of forms and stuff for their payroll taxes and for all the various other complicated things. So FairTax would have none of this. It would have no payroll, no income, no property taxes. There's another one. It's just always when you buy something, when you buy anything, when you buy property, that counts under the same sales tax. When you buy physical goods like a laptop, that counts. When you buy services, that also counts. Anything you can buy, that's legal anyway. So first we cut a whole bunch of bureaucracy, putting many IRS workers out of work. Though actually the bill in question, I think, that has like a 3-year transition period, so the IRS workers can find somewhere else to go. There's an idea of abolishing the IRS entirely, which seems a little weird to me. When you hear Ron Paul or somebody say, we need to get rid of the IRS. And I'm like, wait, who's going to collect our taxes? I mean, so long as there are taxes, I presume we shall need a service which collects internal revenue. Perhaps the Internal Revenue Service. But whether we get rid of the IRS entirely or not, we definitely decimate it. It will go down to 1/10 its size, because one tax to keep track of. How hard is that? Each business is sending forms rather than each individual person. Okay. This is also nice in the realm of privacy. I hadn't really thought about this before, but everyone is required to tell the government every year how much money you earned and how you earned it, and various details about it every year, And it's like, yeah, if that's not necessary, wouldn't it be nice to avoid that and kind of just avoid the infringement on privacy? And if we do a fair tax, then that's not necessary, and we can get rid of the income tax. I mean, yeah, okay. That would be, that'd be nice. There's also charges, and I don't know how much of this is true and how much is exaggerated, but there's things of the IRS basically violating due process, that they commonly, get certain records, or according to some people, practically any record ever, without getting a warrant. And if you go to court with them, you go to a special tax court, which apparently doesn't have all the protections, and they don't give you a lawyer or something like that. It's all rather vague, and that's what kind of makes me wonder how far that goes and whether people might be biased against the IRS. But if there are any concerns, those will pretty much be wiped out when the individual is not paying any individual taxes. Now, you are paying taxes, of course, every time you buy something. The cost of that thing is inflated, to cover up the tax. Again, if it was $77, you're going to be paying $100 because the extra $23 is going to go to the federal government. But there's no personal records on who bought what and when, and there's no need for that. Just so long as the retailers, I keep saying retailers, but anybody selling anything, so long as the sellers, the businesses, keep track of just how much stuff they sell, which shouldn't be too hard. I imagine they keep track of these things anyway. Well then, it makes it very easy. We can collect our taxes without revealing anything about how we're spending money. Interesting idea. There's the question of poverty, and wouldn't this, be especially hard on poor people every time they buy something? It's going to be far more expensive now. It's not like they're paying much on income tax in the first place. Which, alright, that's definitely a concern. So they came up with a solution to that, and that is there's a rebate system. And if you're anywhere under the poverty line, the government really just gives you money based on how much money you're expected to spend, based on, again, who you are and how big your family is, and all these complicated things of determining your poverty level. Basically, okay, you were going to give us, $600 in taxes this year. It's actually a monthly rebate. You're going to give us, some number of dollars in taxes this year. We'll pay that exact amount of money to you, so you're not paying any taxes because you're poor and, okay. Matter of fact, you can actually get a net increase from the government if you spend less than they expected you to spend. Though, of course, in the meantime, you're kind of starving because you're poor. But, okay, so we have a thing to take care of poor people then. We have the privacy things. We have the lack of bureaucracy things. That's pretty good. It's pretty good.